Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to today's Reddit Quickie from the subreddit HFY, called Buddy Bob, Space Trucker Chapter 27. Written by Legal. The link to the original will be down below. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. The invasion of Bastion was not going well for the crabs. While most of the human ships were engaged in defense of the Libertonian homeworld, the terrain on Bastion was more than challenging for the crabs, who weren't designed for mountain combat. They had a weight of sheer numbers on their sides, however, and many wars are decided by statistics and not people. That wasn't always true, however, and so the pure tenacity and determination of the humans was proving very difficult for the crabs to overcome. That, and the fact that the humans were waging war for centuries while the crabs got lazy being able to coerce and intimidate the species around them, and also helped. The crabs had settled into the same tactics that they'd used to end the regulation war. After finding out the humans had plenty of soldiers with the ability to fly, and a preference for aircraft used to close support, they began to coat the plains of the planet with an anti-aircraft weapons. By this point, both sides had started to build up their emplacements and get their heavier weapons set in the front. Instead of the mass infantry battles of the early days of the invasion, the crabs had adjusted their targeting computers as well. Getting a solid lock on the human soldiers was difficult for them, and traditionally battles between Crusticans and Libertonians would devolve into hand-to-hand combat. So the inclusion of humans with the ballistic weapons and sniper rifles wasn't something that the crabs had planned for. They just tried to fire their weapons all over to provide some sort of covering fire as they rushed the human emplacement. Their armored crawlers supplemented with heavier guns behind their lines. Americans also favored an emphasis on lightning warfare for generators, so the sudden siege warfare and heavy emplacement being established on either side took the same adjusting. They lacked the howitzers of old, but the crabs were awful at spotting snipers and recon teams. Not to mention that the humans holding the high ground made the mass charges of crabs easier to withstand. Not all the Libertonian cities were built in the hills and mountains, however. Finchburg was a very important coastal port, providing access to the massive spaceport and the automated fisheries that would help supply the food during the siege. The city was situated at the mouth of a large river just at the base of some foothills. The crabs were unrelenting in their constant assault, but the humans were holding the city for now. The command center was rocked by another explosion as the crab energy blobs slammed down around the fortifications. The power-suited major was looking into a hollow map in the center of the bunker. The edge of the city was a massive trenches, foxholes, and bunkers that the humans had hastily built up. The 9th Stormtroopers held the center, while the 52nd Marines held the southern portion, and the 67th held the north. Sniper team from the 5th Recon were in what was left of the buildings at the edge of the city, providing support, mostly by blowing holes in the crab officers with anti-material rifles. As the Major examined the information on the map, there was a red bleep in the south. Tapping it into a frantic comm message from the broadcaster over the speakers. "Matriarch, they've got a fricking matriarch!" The bombardment was clearly an attempt to bog down reinforcements while they made a concentrated push on the south. "Frack that," the Major said simply and walked out of the bunker's exit. The forward positions were being overrun again as the Marines tried to hold their ground. Lieutenant Jackson was in the MG nest near the back of the trenches, the gunner in front of him laying out as much fire as he could without melting the barrel of the gun. The crabs had advanced with armored crawlers, using them to absorb most of the fire until the infantry could rush forward into the trenches. Shotguns and submachine guns were providing very effective within the trenches themselves, but they had also moved forward a matriarch. They were walking tanks, massive in size with multiple claws, and this one was holding 2 nasty-looking blades to make its close combat potential even deadlier. What made it worse was some of the new shields hadn't been seen before, strong enough to absorb the incoming bullets as they tore through the Marines in the front. Just before the lieutenant could order his forces to start pulling back, he heard a message over the comm: "Reinforcements inbound." There was a streak in the air of jump jets just before a figure in black power armor slammed down into one of the crabs advancing over the trenches, crushing it in a shower of green gunk that they were covered in. Another crab was charging an exposed figure, which turned and punched it in the face. the increased strength enough to entirely pulverize the crab's head into one blow. The figure began to walk forward, firing a massive pistol down into the trenches as it walked over. With its free hand, it lobbed a grenade into the forward trench that had been entirely overrun, pulping the crabs inside. The matriarch saw her new opponent and reared back on its legs, bellowing out a challenge, which the power suit returned with a single raised finger. The power suit fired a massive hand cannon into the shielded target, noticing the rippling energy that stopped the bullets and simply holstered it. Putting free a knife that was more a damn short sword, the matriarch charged forward, swinging those blades as the power suit dove to the side, rising up to slash with a claw, holding one of the blades, cutting it free with a single strike. The matriarch howled in pain, turning to swipe with the remaining blade, only to have the power suit jump over and swipe and cut the claw free as well. This had left the power suit dangerously close to the matriarch, however. It lashed out with its pointed leg, jamming it through the power suit's left shoulder. Holding it in place, it lashed out with the smaller claws. The power suit turned the knife, cutting yet another claw free, before the matriarch jammed another leg through the power suit's left thigh. The human inside was entirely pinned down now. Dropping the knife likely out of pain, the matriarch raised up, intending to make an example out of the one as she pulled the human towards his massive teeth-filled maw. But the matriarch had made a mistake. The power suit grabbed the bottom and top of the jaw, ignoring the mandibles, and it began to pull them open wider. The matriarch shuddered and tried to close its maw around the power suit in a struggle of strength. But the humans were dense, heavy, and strong, which was made all the more powerful by the power suit. Soon the matriarch was backing up, trying to put its legs free of the human to toss it away as its maw was opened wider and wider. Then, with a sickening crack that echoed across the battlefield, the power suit had ripped the matriarch's jaw completely off, letting it drop to the ground as green and purple gunk bled freely from the massive wound. It gargled and screeched in pain, staggering back as the human took hold of the sharp xeno leg piercing its body. Then he simply ripped them free from its sockets. The matriarch howled even louder. It sank into the ground as the power suit stood before it, raising a fist as the human leaned in and started punching the giant crab in a thick, armored skull. The cracking of the exoskeleton could be heard as the human kept punching and punching, reducing the matriarch's head to a mush and pulp. The crab broke after that, turning and fleeing even as the humans fired after them. The figure in the power suit wasn't done, and pulled the hand cannon back out, firing on the crabs as well while they scurried away for their lives. The Marines rushed forward to retake the lost trenches. Then, while the corpsmen approached the power suit, the figure pulled the legs of the shoulder and the thigh, and the lieutenant watched. "Jesus Christ, we need to get you to the field hospital." Bullcrap. The power suit figure reached into his pocket, pulling out a tube of industrial adhesive, jamming it into his shoulder first, filling it with the material before doing the same to his thigh. "I already lost an arm in the first contact war, and my leg'll go just fine in the suit." "Christ, who are you?" The figure opened up his faceplate to reveal a woman's weathered face, one eye clearly cybernetic. "Crap, I'm Major Mary Sue, badass mother of Billy Bob Space Trucker." "What do you mean that I've chosen a mate?" Billy Bob asked, looking confused as hell, while Emily stood next to him, wings extended around her. She looked at him and leaned back a bit, seeing some sort of emotion in her eyes that he didn't understand. "You mean you choose her over me?" "What? I never said that. I've provided you with food and alcohol. My coloring is obviously superior." "Emily, I don't know what's going on here. You're acting crazy. Crazy!" she screamed at him, and then paused, and it changed, seeming to take a hold of her as her wings folded back around her hands lowered. She could see the tears streaming down her eyes then. "You think that I'm crazy?" "No, wait." But the damage was done, and she began to cry, turning and running back up the stairs. Billy Bob cursed and quickly put the bottle of booze and plates and food back on the bar as he went running after her. The door to the room was open, but inside he found the bathroom door locked, and soon a sort of chirping coming from inside. "Emily," he asked as he knocked on the door, "please come out. We need to talk this over. 'Cause I'm really confused. What is there to talk about? You've made your choice," came her obviously pained voice from inside. Billy Bob saw the human agent at the door and looked back at the locked bathroom door. "Emily, don't do anything. I'll be right back." He quickly moved to the woman and said, "What the frack do I do?" "I don't know. You're the one who's been living with her." "Yeah, but I never talked to her about, whatever's going on." "Why not?" "I don't know. I just assumed someone else would explain it to me when the time was right." He shrugged, obviously regretting that decision by now. "Well, that was a stupid idea." "Yes, thank you. I got that now," he growled out with a frown. "Hold on," the spy murmured, and pulled a small earpiece from his ear, handing it to Billy Bob, who quickly set it into his ear. "This is Billy Bob." "The frick did you do to the Libertonian?" "I don't fricking know." "Who is this?" "My name is Greg. I'm the senior agent." "What's going on?" "She made some sort of mating display on you. Turned her down." "I don't know what the frick is going on." "All right." "Oh, crap. Hold on. Let me open up some files here." Okay. Libertonian mating rituals. Libertonian mating rituals are amongst the most complex and complicated in the known galaxy. "That's fricking fantastic," Billy Bob muttered. Unlike most species, the Libertonians form unions based on around mutual benefit and enjoyment rather than reproduction. This is likely a side effect of their homeworld and evolution, yada yada yada. Males and females are free to instigate, with no cultural bias and gender roles, blah blah blah. Are you a gender capable of breeding with her? I'm a fricking human and you know that. I don't think we can breed. Yeah, but you are a male, so her brain might not be processing the fact that you're not one of a kind properly. Oh, Jesus, Billy Bob groaned out as he tried to think of what that meant. When a Libertonian female has chosen a significant other she wishes to mate with or form a union with, her body will undergo certain changes which are only triggered at such a time. Many experience fluctuations in hormones unique to this experience, as their body begins to form bonds with scent, presence, and taste of the chosen significant other. Well, she can smell me, and I know that she's tasted my blood, and not to mention that she rubs against me more now. During this time, blah blah blah, there's a chance the first-time mates will experience a decrease in self-awareness and logic as the mental desire for acceptance becomes even directly related to certain pleasure senses. I guess it's like dopamine. Once she decided she liked you, her body started to change, and because you two have been fighting crabs and nearly dying and all of that, it's likely she's been confusing sensations. So, she's like riding on a high when she's been around me lately and didn't realize she was starting to change because she associated it with being a rush of fighting for her life. Yeah, I guess so, but that's if she's never done it before. Christ, Billy Bob muttered and rubbed his face with his hands. So basically all the hormones started turning her into a teenage girl, and it's all sort of cascaded until she couldn't think straight anymore. So when she saw your spy in a bright dress, it triggered some sort of mating ritual response, yes. She's likely didn't notice your lack of response because her body was putting in for it for her. Just being around you made her think that you were fully accepting of what was going on. Or maybe she just misread it. I don't know. I'm not a xenobiologist. Billy Bob let all this sort of wash through his mind as he tried to figure out what to do next. All right, I'll talk to you later, he said, waving the spy out of the room before closing the door. Got any advice for me? I just hear her chirping in there. That's likely the secret of an ancient Libertonian language that's used only in the company of significant others. No information has been provided for the translation implants due to the intimate nature of the language and the general isolation of the Libertonians for the last couple hundred years. Billy Bob thought it over and walked up to the supply crates that he'd brought from the ship. He opened it up and took out one of the steaks that he still had, plus a bottle and gin that he wanted to save until he found a tonic and limes. He walked back to the bathroom door and knocked. "Emily!" He heard chirping as a question mark scrolled along the bottom of his vision as the translating implant couldn't process it. "I don't know what you're saying. I'm not a Libertonian, remember? But I brought you meat and alcohol." There was a pause, and then he heard a few more chirps. "I still don't know what you're saying, but I have to say, you have had better coloring than anyone that I've ever seen. It was vibrant and intense, and so amazing it confused me." He heard the other side of the door, and he heard it unlock before she opened it up. He could see the streaks of tears on her cheeks through the downy feathers. He held up the steak and the gin for her to see. "I'm human, so you have to talk in your normal language for me." She blinked for a moment and then hesitantly spoke up. "You're providing for me?" "Yes," he nodded, and she reached out to take them, the claws on her hands sinking into the steak through the packaging, as the other stretched for the glass bottle as she shuddered from the sound. I think we need to sit down and talk." He saw tears well up in her eyes again. "You're going to choose someone else." No, no. He quickly said and stepped back, hands spread. "But we do need to talk." He motioned towards the seats in the room, and she nodded. Slowly moving out of the bathroom and sitting down, holding the steak and the bottle in her lap, Billy Bob took a seat next to her. "Am I your first mate?" "What does that have to—" She stopped then, and her eyes went wide as if she realized why he'd asked that. "Oh crap," she mused. "Yes, and all these emotions lately, and feelings, and oh, my intelligence god, I've been such an idiot," she exclaimed. "Hey, I'm the idiot here." "No, I totally forgot. With all the training that I had about communications and diplomacy and all of that, it was from a basis of everyone in the galaxy hating us. I never thought I'd develop feelings for a Xeno. So when I started to get all sensitive, I forgot that you had no idea why, and I nearly killed you, so I was focused on holding back so I didn't harm you with any of the other normal displays of affection." She clutched her head with her two free hands. "Oh, I've been such an idiot. Hey, don't you take the blame here. I could tell you like me, but I just figured that we'd give it time, 'cause, well, I was terrified after the first time that you just killed me when we did anything, and I didn't look into your species at all. I totally should have been more careful about that. And there was something from when I was a kid that sort of, spoiled me on Xeno relations." She looked confused at that and sighed out. "They showed us these pictures of humans who had been infected with Xeno STDs, and it was awful and disgusting and scared the crap out of me. But there aren't any known STDs that jump species, and wasn't your species just getting to know the local galaxy when you were young?" "Yeah, when you're a teenager, you don't think about stuff like that. Not when you have Mrs. Munchausen for a teacher." "Well, I really do like you, Billy Bob, and I nearly killed you when I first tried to show it. And then you almost died at the museum. And then we spent all this time together. My brain just got all fuzzy, and I thought you just needed more clear indication that I wanted you as a mate, which was why you'd been so reluctant." "Well, why didn't you just ask me that? Why didn't you talk to me about it? 'Cause I generally bullcrap my way through life, and I thought that I could do the same here." He shrugged at that moment. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault." "No. I should have seen the signs. I was going to talk to you about it back when I first tried to show it to you. But you nearly died, so that's all I was focused on. And then I'm around you and I feel so good and happy. When that human woman showed up and looked all colorful, I've been acting like a child. But you can fight and dance and cook, and you like amazing music. I never found a more perfect mate. Emily, I'm human. I'm highly doubt that we can reproduce." "So?" She looked confused. "For libertarians, unions are about mutual enjoyment of one another's company. Why is reproduction important?" Well, for human males there's a certain, drive." He paused and looked up at her. "So you're saying because I'm not human?" He knew that he had to take the plunge here. He'd never thought about it before meeting Emily, but he liked her. She could shotgun a beer like a champ. She was tall and graceful. Hell, she had a way better banter than he'd ever be, and she totally kicked ass in a power suit. Plus, he liked her. He was all hung up about her being a Xeno. But that was selfish. He liked who she was. Frick, what she looked like. "No, Emily, now that I understand what's going on, I'd like to be your mate. I just didn't know it until you fought that skank in a slutty dress away." She smiled at him and he smiled back, and then he stood up, opening his arms and quickly jumping up and hugging him back. But her gloves were where she left them, on the floor, so as she hugged him, her talons sank into his flesh on his back, and he gasped out in pain. She heard the noise and stepped back, her talons running along his shoulders as her eyes were wide with agony. When she pulled her hands away and saw the blood and realization hit her. Oh no. He slowly dropped to the ground and cried in pain, several strips of flesh missing from his back, his shirt and jacket torn easily. "Oh crap! Oh, merciful God, I'm sorry. Again, don't move, I'll be back." She turned, running to the door as the human spy had to jump back. "Don't let him die, I'm going to get biogel," Emily yelled as she ran down the hall. The agent quickly rushed forward and saw Billy Bob on the ground, groaning. "Ow! Why does she have to have such sharp claws?" he gasped out. His life wasn't in danger, but he was in intensive pain. Well, you know what they say. The spy was unable to hold back a smirk. Love hurts. And so ends another chapter in the adventures of Betty Bob, Space Trucker. I hope that you enjoyed. If you'd like to support the channel or the author, all the stuff is down below. And as always, I hope that you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next story. Cheers.